Whole show going crazy. Whole show going crazy. Top 5 we debating.
Top five, top five, top five.
5 Over Friends, the show where we debate our top 5 list on a topic chosen by a listener with the listener.
As usual, our friendship goes out the door once we get into it. This is 5 Over Friends. Hey guys, it's Seth. When Wes and I decided to start our podcast, we used Anchor because it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And they'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's essentially everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Thanks everybody for joining 5 Over Friends today. We've got a new episode in for you and a new guest. And this time it's somebody that Wes and I have actually never communicated with before other than through 5 Over Friends. So that's exciting. I'm really looking forward to having a show where we are all kind of meeting Roker. He's our guest at the same time. So I'm looking forward to that. You may have noticed no funny intro or outro this week because Wes and I tied with Andrew last week on the votes. So keep those votes rolling in so I can make Wes do something stupid next week after he loses this week. But with that said, we'll throw it over to Roker and let him give an introduction to himself.
Wes, Seth, it is nice to meet you. My name is Roker, long time, first time. Got turned on to the pod by old Jack O'Neill, one of a kind dude, and appreciate him sending me y'all's podcast to listen. I live in Winston-Salem, but I'm originally from Alabama. And Seth, I believe, do you have the Kansas City? That's you?
I do. Yep, I'm all Kansas City.
I spent some fair time in St. Louis, so we got that Missouri connection.
Gotcha. Cool.
And just graduated law school, getting ready to go into the Marine Corps, and pumped to be on the podcast. Pretty sure I've got the top 5, so you guys may be wasting your time, but I'm happy to do it.
All
Sounds
right.
like an attorney.
And introduce us to that topic, Roker.
So the topic for this week is going to be first. This is my first podcast, and I think we got a pretty broad array of topics for you guys doing it. I mean, before we start though, I do want to ask, now that we know each other, we all are friends. I make the cut.
Yes. Friends for life.
Good. So let's throw that out because I have no friends on this podcast. I'm here strictly to win, and I'm ready to begin.
As it should be, 5 Over Friends. Well, thank you for just real quick. First off, because I like I said, we don't know you at this point, but I appreciate you enlisting in the Marines. My dad was a Marine, and I was just in Alabama last week or earlier this week, I guess. So
yeah, roll tide. Yeah, you were going down to Orange Beach, right? That was the
Orange Beach, Gulf Shores area. So.
Yep. Minor correction, I am an officer in the Marine Corps. If you're familiar with it, enlisted officer is a little bit different. Not to cut hairs, but I have no friends, and I'm here strictly for facts. So I want to make
Understood.
sure we're all good.
All right. Well, with that, start us off with your first fact, quote unquote, number 5 first for you.
The best or the 5th best first that you can have in your life is your first time on a plane. Now, obviously, I'm assuming we've all been on a plane. You're going to the airport. It's your first time. You have no clue what to expect. You get in there. There is nothing bad. It is all just exciting and new. You get on to that giant school bus of a plane, and all of a sudden you are forced against your seat and you're in the air, climbing above the clouds. It is modern day magic. There's 4 other feelings that are better than that first time, but that is definitely the best.
It's in that huge petri dish that's climbing above the skies.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I don't hate
50 of your closest friends.
I don't hate that. Right now, it's a little bit hard to do any flying, and you're a little too close to people. But
depends on who you ask. Wes.
I mean, this is a first. So, I mean, I'm just
Oh
saying.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's not during COVID. So yeah.
I mean, if your first
great one.
is this week, you're probably on that plane by yourself. So that would be even better, I imagine. You get the whole thing.
We were about 25% capacity last week. It was
Yeah,
pretty
so
nice.
You're living in first class the whole way through.
Exactly.
It makes it a lot safer right now too. That they're not packed. All
Well,
right.
and
Yep.
if they're buying their first plane ticket right now, they're probably getting a pretty good deal. So it might be a good time to take your first flight.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I'll go next with my 5. I said riding a bike.
Okay.
I mean, so you're a kid. You've only crawled, walked to this point. You've ridden in a car with your parents, but you've never controlled your own transportation. So this is your first time going fast on your own. Seth's laughing at me right now.
Did you learn to get on a bike before you learned to run? What's
Yeah,
going on?
like what is this guy?
You can ride a bike double the speed you can run.
I had a big
how,
wheel.
How old were you
so
when
I
you
don't know.
first rode a bike?
I mean,
23.
Humble members of the audience, I posit to you, if you don't remember your first experience doing it, it doesn't count as being the best experience.
it has translated into so much more bike riding since then. But I believe I was around 5 or 6 years old.
All right, Lance Armstrong. Sure.
Well, I don't remember my first time in a plane, so that can't be one of mine.
Oh, okay.
See?
Starting off to a slow start. Apparently, neither of you have taken this topic seriously enough, but I'm on board. Let's keep going.
I think we decided we may have an easy win this week, so we didn't have to take it too seriously. My number 5 is my first car.
Okay.
So I felt like that was an incredibly liberating experience having my first car. It's like anticipation builds for years and years and years until you finally get your first car. 1997 Dodge Neon with, I think I may be the only one in the world with dual tailpipes on my Dodge Neon.
Wow.
What color?
Oh,
were you
yeah.
with?
Oh, pitch black, of course.
Nice.
Pitch black. Yep. So that was my my gift from my parents when I was 16. They got it in an auto auction. Dad had to do some work to it so it would run, and that was my baby until I wrecked it like any other 16-year-old. So
How long did you have it before you wrecked it?
oh, that's a good question. Maybe 3 months.
Thank
Oh
you.
gosh.
So basically, your first experience was you wrecking it, pretty much.
Pretty much. Also, just a word to the wise out there: don't give someone directions out your window while you're driving on the highway around a curve.
Sounds smart.
Yeah,
Do you still have your license?
I'm a very good driver nowadays.
Yeah, that story definitely proves it.
It does. When you hit a telephone pole and your radio ends up in your back seat, you hit so hard it's not fun.
What?
So knocked over a telephone pole. That's what happens when you're 16 and you're dumb. But yes, I was so excited to drive my car until I ran it into a pole.
All right,
Well,
let's
with
hear four.
that as your 5, I'm excited to hear where you go from there.
Well, kind of along those large milestones in your life, my number 4 is my first place. So like my first place on my own. For me, it was buying a house my senior year of college. I had lived in the dorms before that. And it was really the first place that I was able to call my own. I had no idea what it meant to be a homeowner. It was like Wes is finding out right now. It's eye-opening. And to not ever have even rented before that, it was kind of jumping in the deep end. But, you're really proud of your house. I still drive by that house and just kind of check up on it. That's my home, my first home. So that
So
means something to me.
on a podcast to what I can only imagine is tens of thousands of people, you're admitting to stalking the buyers of your old house?
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
100%. They have not changed a single thing about that house.
You're selling us a little short there. We're hundreds of thousands of listeners strong.
Okay, fair.
Yeah,
That's-
I don't know what you're thinking.
Good to see that you're starting off with solely material possessions. That's
Absolutely.
I'm learning a lot here about you.
All right. And in a completely different direction, not material at all, I'll go with my number 4. And that's the first time stepping out under the Friday night lights,
Mm.
playing some high school football.
Mm.
Playing, and I loved playing sports growing up, but there was just nothing like the Friday night lights, man.
Yeah, nothing like being the 4th-string
I was-
receiver.
Now for
DB West, is that what you were?
slot receiver.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so I started my senior year. I did not play at all my junior year, but I started my senior year and got a fair amount of playing time then.
Okay. One of your top first is a high school highlight. That's good, man.
Yeah,
Really?
I still wear the. I don't, but I was
He's
going to
got
joke.
the Letterman jacket.
I was going to joke and say I still pull the Letterman out and still wear it to the grocery store. And
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say you wore your jersey and cleats.
Yeah.
Bobby Boucher,
Hey,
like
only on game day. Only on game day, Seth.
every Friday, yes.
nights.
Friday's
When he's
at work
watching
now. It's
Friday
high
Night
school
Lights with
jersey
his
day.
sister.
I've got the helmet. I carry the helmet around with me. In
Yeah.
the halls of work.
It's signed by the cheerleaders of the team.
That's good.
All right, Roker. Number 4.
Well, Wes, we were on the same page. My the fourth best first you have the first full Saturday of college football in the year. You have been counting down the days. You're ready for it. 10 o'clock rolls around. You're waking up, turning on game day, and you just know the farthest you're going to walk is to your fridge to get a beer and whatever snacks that you've stockpiled. The first Saturday of college football is the only reason I live through the rest of the year. That's the start of the time worth living, and it goes until we get the national championship. We don't need to talk about what's happening this year. I don't want to delve into that sadness. Just let's all admit that that's a great day.
It's a great day, and I sincerely hope we get it this year. I really do.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say on that.
I mean,
Undebatable. Yeah. Thank you.
it's okay.
Thank you all.
I don't see how that even is on a list of top 5 for first. Like,
Okay.
I'm thinking my whole life.
Oh, wow.
When was your first college football Saturday? Like, you
Well,
were 21 years old getting a beer?
It's a different Saturday every year, Seth. I don't know if you're familiar how seasons work, but it's an annual thing.
It is. Well, I take an airplane quite a bit, and walking on the airplane for the first time every time I take a trip, I don't consider that a new first. So
No, I'm excited to leave it to the
I'm
listeners.
not sure where you took this one, but
I
we'll let
think
you do
I
it.
think the listeners are going to be on my side. I think the quiz, the poll will show.
Well,
all
just let them know
100,000
you're an
people.
Alabama fan, and you'll have the rest of the
Absolutely.
nation against you. So
Roll Tide. Bring on the hate. Let's
War
go.
Eagle.
Yeah.
MIZ. Okay. So what's your number 3, Roker?
All right. The number 3, and this is going to take some explaining, but it's the first time completing the Mellick Marathon. Now, I don't imagine you're familiar with the Mellick Marathon. Mellick Marathon is a competition created by my brother and I. And this past December, we invited a few friends to a mountain house where the challenge was to drink 100 beers in 3 days. My brother and I both completed the Mellick Marathon. We had another guy get to 69 beers.
Nice.
Let
It's
me
a good
tell you,
number.
the third day, finishing off that 100th beer, and just the sense of pride and accomplishment of doing something incredible. It's the third best first in the world.
That's certainly incredible.
Yeah, you and one other person own the first on that one.
Hey, one day, dream big. You guys can do it. Hit me up, and we can all talk about what a great feeling it is.
There's no chance I'm drinking 100 beers in 3 days. That's just not happening.
Well, not with that attitude.
There's no way I could do it. I just don't think I could. I don't have a
Right.
big enough stomach to hold all of that liquid.
It's just enthusiasm. There's a good sense of camaraderie, and you hurt later, but yeah, it's a great feeling.
Was one of the worst firsts the Monday following that weekend?
Well, I've done a good job of blocking out most of what
okay.
followed.
PTSD on college football Saturdays when you go get a beer. You're like,
Golly, I can't imagine how you felt after that.
I'm not a big drinker. I don't know if I've had 100 beers in my life, to be honest with you. But
well, it's an incredible first. I did not put climbing Everest on there, but your first time climbing Everest, I imagine, is similar to when you do it.
Yeah. I can only imagine. All right, Wes, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is a callback to earlier in the episode, my first time flying.
Oh,
It's a great one. You are really excited about whatever trip you're about to go on. For me, it was Chicago to visit family. Never been in a plane before. Only drove out of the state. It was just an awesome. You don't know what to expect. you get up in the air. Somebody brings you drinks and snacks while you're flying. It's really cool. And you're traveling to go see a city you've never been because it's your first time flying. And it was just a really cool experience. And definitely think that it should be in everyone's top 5 because flying is awesome.
Seth, I got a question for you as a Kansas City guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one thing that I learned from my time in St. Louis was to have a deep-seated hatred for all things Chicago. And I want to know if that goes across the state or if that's just a 314 thing.
No, absolutely not. What it is in Kansas City is a deep-seated hatred for all things St. Louis. So
Good.
that's how it goes. It's more of like a triangle.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, it's definitely not a parallel line that goes toward the Chicago area.
Who do people in Chicago hate then?
Everyone else.
Common decency.
In themselves.
Or I guess the other side of Chicago, depending on which side.
Yes, the
That's
north
cool.
or the south side.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, Cubs, White Sox.
All right, Seth, let's hear your 3.
Yeah, so my number 3 is my very first real job, like my first career level job. I feel like that is something that you work a long time toward. Roker, I'm sure you can kind of relate. You know, you've been to law school. For me, it was something that I had just been waiting a long time for, working hard to get, and I finally got an accounting job after I graduated with my accounting degree. And although I don't do that specific work anymore, it was just a huge sense of accomplishment, and it's something that I had worked a long time towards. So that's my number 3 first.
I think if I was your friend, I would say that's a great answer. But as a guy out here just going off facts, if your third best first is getting an accounting job, man, we got to get out there. There's more of the world to see.
I know. My third doesn't nearly match 100 beers in 3 days. I mean, you set the bar really high. I'm talking about going to school for 18 years or whatever, but that's fine.
Yeah. Hey, man.
But after going for 18 years, you chose accounting.
Yeah.
And like I said, I no longer do that.
Yeah.
Work.
But it was a great first. I'm on board. I think I would have given you more credit if you had said my first paycheck after doing my real job.
Well, the problem is your first real job, you still don't really get paid shit. So it wasn't really that great of a first paycheck.
Gotcha. So we're taking away from the positive side. Nice. Good argument. Listeners, taking notes down
your
there.
3 just got a little worse by your own comment.
Yeah.
It sets the stage for moving forward in your life.
I believe the term is lawyered, but I'll allow the listeners to determine.
All right, Seth, let's hear that too.
All right, number 2 for me is, I feel like I'm kind of sentimental getting in these top ones. My first real relationship. So like you're in elementary school and you got girlfriends, or I had girlfriends like 5th, 6th grade or whatever. But those, that's not like a real commitment. I feel like
chick bagging over here.
Yeah, wow, must be cool.
Oh, I know, right?
Cruising the halls in his Letterman jacket, just taking chicks left and right.
Dude, I don't know what you're talking about. I still wear that on Fridays with Wes. But like your first one where you feel like you actually have a connection and it means something and you can kind of see a future. Even though it, of course, doesn't ever seem to work out, or for most people doesn't work out in the first one, I feel like it kind of opens up your mind.
How old were you in this first relationship?
Oh, I don't know, like 18,
what is that,
19.
What is up with you guys saying a first and then not knowing your specific first?
Because, riding a bike is... How am I going to remember the exact age I was? I remember the first time riding a bike.
Riding a bike is
That's all I need.
First.
Okay.
Like,
I remember the first time. I just don't remember if I was like 5 or 6.
Cutting to it.
I don't
Okay.
and so like Seth, I'm sure he remembers that first real girlfriend, but he
doesn't remember the age.
Well, and it's a learning experience to kind of like.
I believe
build
Bush was
upon
president
those.
sometime in those years.
4-year span.
Yeah.
You probably lost a little bit of your memory over that weekend, so.
But yeah. All right. I'll go with my number 2. I'm going to say my first MLB game. So I grew up watching just about every Braves game with my dad. It felt like every night We would turn the TV on after dinner, watch a Braves game. And so my first Braves game actually came with a pretty funny story. So we get up that morning. We were going to go and get to the park early and explore and do all that. And my dad gets out of bed, and there was a mirror sitting beside the bed. We were staying with my cousin.
That's creepy, bro.
There was a mirror sitting beside the bed, and he kicked it and cut his toe open. So we had to take him to the emergency room. So we dropped my dad off at the emergency room. Go
Wait,
back.
are you in a hotel?
No, my cousin's house.
Okay.
She lived in Atlanta at the time.
Okay.
So we get him from the emergency room on the way to the game. He's got like a foot wrap and crutches, and we're going into my first Major League Baseball game, Braves game. My dad on crutches, hurrying in, but still first time sitting down in that seat with a hot dog and a soda, ready to watch some. I was just excited for that, and that was
what Braves era are we talking about here?
That was I want to say I was about 10 or 11. I can't remember. It was right around there. So that's been
What Greg Maddux is probably sitting there. He's getting ready.
I know Chipper was still there, obviously.
Well, that's all you need.
I don't know if Maddux was still there. Smoltzy was in the bullpen, I feel like, by that point.
Okay.
So it was the era where they squandered all their talent. Right?
Correct. That could be talked about for about 13 years, where they should have won more than one World Series and done a whole lot more with.
I mean, it's
three of
the
the greatest pitchers of all time, and Chipper Jones, but yes, the experience of my first MLB game, great, and I think that any baseball fan would put that in their top 5.
I think going off of your other tops, I agree with where you place this one. I don't know.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I think based off of how you're prioritizing things so far, I'm on your side. That was a good pick for you.
Okay, let's hear Seth's 2. Or no, I just went. Seth's already done his 2. Let's hear Roker's 2.
Yeah. So I think that the number 2 first, the greatest first that's ever happened, was the first time man walked on the moon. Okay? Hear me out here. I think if you're the topic was solely first, all right? The first steps on the moon back in 1969. Incredible time. Shout out Michael Collins, who was the guy that stayed and didn't get to walk on the moon. He stayed in the old space shuttle to make sure everything was good. I imagine stepping on the moon, looking down at the Earth, second greatest first that you can ever have. So that's going to be mine.
I've got a question for you. What do you say to those that say that we didn't actually step on the moon and that was just a green screen?
All right. I say that I've spent the hours. I've watched the footage. It's on YouTube. I think you go and look at it.
He knows the gravitational pull.
Like, you gotta go through the math. But I feel pretty good. I watched Buzz Aldrin punch that reporter in the face who said that we hadn't. And I think, I would say live your dreams. I've held that truth in the past, but now I'm on to the real truth, and we walked on the moon.
All right. I'll believe you. Is the flag still there?
Have you seen, what's that Netflix show that Space Force? Have you all watched?
Yes, I watched that. It's really funny.
Yeah, I'm on board. I do think the Chinese are making moves to take it down, but yeah, it's still up there. I think it's bleached now. I think because of the sun or something, it's supposed to be like a white flag. I read that on a blog once. It's all right. Never mind. Let's move on.
You've done a lot of deep diving on the space.
I don't want you to think that I came to y'all's pod unprepared. I did my reading.
All right.
He's been preparing since episode 1 to talk about walking on the moon.
Yeah.
All right. And without further ado, let's hear everyone's number 1, starting with Roker.
This one was tough. All right. Obviously, I've nailed the first 4. We can all agree. The fans are going to agree. It's all there. The number 1 for me, and I went personal. It was meeting my first adult hero. Guy named John Craigie. He's a folk singer, and I had driven up to Asheville. I got there 2 hours early. I sat at a bar across the street and just watched the front door and saw him walk in, and then I walked to be first in line, and then he left the place, and I was so starstruck I couldn't even breathe, and just that overwhelming sense of being holy cow, this is a guy that Like, I love listening to his music. Was like I was first person in the line. I stayed until everyone else had left the venue. I like sat in the car and like called a bunch of people and was like, I just met him. Like, that's incredible. This is all the stuff. No one's ever heard of this guy. I'm just a huge fan of him. So to me, greatest first is when like we meet your hero. And let me add the caveat: he lives up to like what you want. He's not like a jerk.
I could have swore you were gonna say Buzz Aldridge.
That-
I was like, this has got to be his number one.
That would be incredible. That would have really tied my 5 together.
I mean, that's a pretty good one. I'm not gonna lie. It didn't make my list, but so I have 5 better things, but it's still a pretty good one. For a list
mean,
that includes
I feel like it would've been
100
good if-
beers in 3 weekends.
I've ever heard of that guy before, but I have no idea who that is.
But
I mean, listen,
it
it's
is
a
it is
subjective
definitely
opinion.
awesome that he lived up to the expectation.
Yeah,
Yes.
very cool. Hey, meeting heroes. I mean, I'm not here to tell you who your hero should be. I'm just telling you, like, when you meet him and he lives up to it, or her, it's an incredible experience.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, and okay, I'll move on with my number 1, and I am going to say the first date with the woman who would become my wife. I'm not going to say that on that date I knew she was going to become my wife. I'm not going to sit here and say that. But we had met. I knew something was different about this girl, and that first date went really well. And just that whole experience, that's the top first for me.
Where'd you go? What'd you do?
So for the first date, we had met.
He rode his bike over to her house.
Yeah, it is His Letterman jacket.
So our first time meeting was a mountain weekend with some friends, and so we got
He
to
drank
kind
100 beers.
Yeah.
we got to kind of hang out for that. But our first date, she lived in another town about an hour away, so I drove in.
Sheesh.
Yeah, drove in, went to church, got lunch, and went on a hike. So that was what we did, and that was a lot of fun.
Was it just you two on the
Yes.
hike?
Yeah.
Cool.
So that was like our first real date. We had seen each other and hung out, but that was our first like real, we're gonna try and date kind of thing.
Did you go to her church?
Yes,
Was it the same denomination?
it was non-denominational.
Well, I mean, are you non-denominational? Are we getting too personal? We don't want to get too personal.
I grew up in a Methodist church, but I don't go to a Methodist church currently. I go to a non.
I just wasn't sure if maybe they like threw something crazy at you and you were like,
No, like speaking in tongues or using snakes, like some.
Gotcha. Okay.
weird- nothing,
No one
nothing
put
weird.
their hand
It's
on
tough.
your heart and
It was
Yeah.
it was like a big church that I'd seen like videos of online before. Elevation in Charlotte.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard of it.
Yeah. Tough to argue with someone arguing true love was the top first.
Yeah, I figured I would play on the emotions of our listeners and get that the heartstring tug there.
But I do think that Walking on the Moon probably tops that.
I don't know.
But
When you,
Well, let me know when you walk on the moon, Roker.
Yeah.
and I'm assuming you haven't. Have you met your wife? I'm not.
I mean,
don't
who
know.
knows? You know, like
I guess. So when you're married to your wife, let me come back
you'll
to
let
me.
me
and let
back
me
on
know,
the cat. Yeah, you'll let me on the podcast again.
and we'll talk about whether or not
Or
it's better-
husband, Wes.
Yeah.
Oh
Or
yes,
husband.
we're
Thank you.
when you meet your husband or
Unbelievable.
wife, we'll come back. You can come back on the podcast and tell me if that's better than Walking on the Moon or not.
Okay, good. All right, well, y'all have already committed that I get to come back on the podcast. So this is a successful podcast for me.
All right,
Alright.
so yep, going along those same lines of tugging at the heartstrings is becoming a dad for the first time is my number one. You know, some of the same thoughts went into my top 5. Like Wes talked about his first date with his wife, and I didn't want to say first marriage because I don't want to have a second one. So I feel like, you know, having our first child kind of brings the family together. It's the most amazing feeling, and every day it honestly, like, it gets better over time. So yeah, I can't really describe it. It's hard to describe, but yeah, creating even more of a even stronger bond with my wife, and then bringing a mini me into the world is just amazing. So that's clearly my number one.
Hopefully, he has better top 5s than his dad.
Yeah. Seth, do you think you're gonna have a second child?
Yeah, we have a second child do next month, actually.
What are you going to tell that second child when he or she comes back, listens to this podcast, and then says, "Oh, so the birth of the firstborn was better than the secondborn"?
The secondborn hasn't been born yet, so I don't know how that feels.
I think we're going off of first. We never stipulated that it had to be a first we experienced. I think suspect. Have fun dealing with that.
In 10 years, when he knows what a podcast is and listens to it, Seth's going to be in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Kids are growing up quick. He's going to be like 4 or 5, have his own podcast, start competing with you guys.
Our little one now knows how to use YouTube Kids like a champ, and he's not even 2, so it's scary.
Kids are growing up and learning so fast. It's wild. All right, let's recap top 5s and give some honorable mentions that we considered, if you have any.
Yeah, so I can go first. My number 5 was my first car. Number 4 was my first place. Number 3 was my first real or career job. My number 2 was my first real relationship. And number 1 was becoming a dad for the first time. And then I had 5 honorable mentions. 1 is my first major vacation, so almost flying is kind of along the same lines. My first adult meal that I made myself that actually tasted like up to snuff. Felt pretty proud. My first adult meal that I was able to buy because of my real job. Like the first time I actually spent like good money, not just McDonald's money or Taco Bell money.
Yep.
And then 9 and 10 are my first Super Bowl win and my first World Series win as a fan. So both of those have come in the past 5 years. So I feel the emotion of those still.
I don't know what those feel like.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was not. Well, a Braves one has happened in my lifetime, but I was 1. And then the Panthers, I'm not going to talk about that.
Yeah, well, shout out Pat Mahomes, 10-year extension. That's my boy for the next 12 at minimum.
All right, so I'll recap my 5. Number 5, riding a bike. Number 4, first time under the Friday Night Lights. Number 3, first time flying. Number 2, first MLB game. Number 1, the first date with my now wife. And then my honorable mentions, first alcoholic drink. I was gonna say beer, but my first wasn't a beer, so that's why I went with that.
It was a cranberry vodka.
It was not. It was a
Mad Dog 40.
rum and Gatorade.
Okay.
It was a bang.
It should have been a bang.
And then the other honorable mention, or some of the other honorable mentions, driving. First time driving. That was before I was even 16. Yeah.
Country roads in North Carolina.
Yep. Another one that I thought about was first NFL game, but that wasn't quite the experience that the first MLB game was for me. Another one that I thought about was
Your
first.
dad was uninjured for that one. Didn't have the same feel.
Yeah, exactly. That put it over the top for me.
If you don't have stitches, then really, what's the point in going to the game?
Exactly.
He did wear his Letterman jacket though.
Yeah.
And the last 2 were sports memories of like childhood, first home run and first touchdown.
Ooh, good ones.
Yeah, those were sitting on the outside looking in, but I liked them, but not quite enough for the top 5.
My top 5 was number 5, first time on a plane, first Saturday of a full college football, the first time completing the Mellick Marathon, first time that man walked on the moon, and then first time meeting a hero. I had first home run was one of my honorable mentions. The first lady, obviously I'm referring to Eve. Without her, no other firsts are possible. Let's see, what else did I have here? I don't know if y'all remember commenting first on internet things where they said first.
The trend every time people posted a picture first.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even though you're probably the second or third.
I didn't have that, but on Tuesday, when this is also dropping, just to show you guys that I did my homework, this was actually the first day that Disneyland opened way back in the day. So I imagine the people going there for the first time, that was pretty cool for them. So
that's actually an awesome fun fact about the day.
That's going to
come out.
Yeah, I take it seriously here, boys. I'm not messing around. I put this in front of the fans. I think it's clear that I did my homework. I did the work. I deserve the win. And I'm excited to come back when I've met the love of my life today. Whether walking on the moon or meeting her or him was better.
Hey, you're welcome anytime.
Thank you so much for your hospitality, guys. I love the show. I'm going to keep listening, and I can't wait to see what else y'all do.
All right.
Yeah,
We
appreciate
appreciate having
it,
you
man.
on.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, Roker. And it was nice to meet you. I think it was cool that we kind of interacted with you for our first time, and the listeners are going to hear that interaction also. So everybody's going to kind of get to know you at the same time. That's cool.
Yep. And in spirit of this episode, you are the first guest, as Seth said, that we don't have a personal connection to beforehand. So that's definitely a first to consider for your next top 5 list.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad also now to say that now that's all over. Contingent on the fact that I won, I'm ready to be friends with you guys and make this thing official.
All right.
All right. Sounds like a plan, but you won't win, unfortunately, for you. Cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening to this episode of 5 Over Friends. Be sure to hit up our Instagram. That's where we vote on who won. So you can vote for our guest Roker, Wes, or me, Seth. We do the voting Tuesday through Thursday, and then we take topic suggestions on our Instagram story on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So as usual, get us your topics so that you can join the show, and appreciate you taking a chance and listening with us. And we're out. Thanks, guys.
Later. Thanks for supporting our show, 5 Over Friends.
We hope you'll join us next week as we debate a new topic.
Don't forget to submit topics on our latest Instagram post for a chance to be our next guest debating your top 5.
Subscribe, rate the show, and share with your friends to help us grow.
See
See y'all next week.